Okay, today's reloading video is going to be on 380 ACP. What we'll do first things first, it is shell plate number 16, which interestingly I already had because it fits 223 Remington. Go ahead and make sure our shell plate is nice and clean and presentable. And our turntable should be the same. Go ahead and line up the keyway. And tighten this sucker down. There we go. Alright, first things first, go ahead and get our retention spring on there. Go ahead and cycle the press and dip it down into that groove right there. Make sure it stays put. Make sure the press functions smoothly and indexes properly. And we've already got the powder dispenser in place. This is always the first step that I do. So the formula we're going to be using today . 380 ACP. I'm using a 90 grain Hornady XTP. I'm using CFE pistol and 4.1 grains of it. I'm using small magnum primers for clean burn and an overall length of 0.97 inches. Yes, I am following a factory manual for overall length this time because I'm making these for somebody else. So we'll go ahead and back this off just a little bit because I'm not really sure where I left off last time. And we want this all the way at the top of the stroke. We're about 2/3 of the way there, so that's encouraging. So let's see where that got us. Almost, super close. There it is, right at the top. That's perfect. So there's that. We will go ahead and set our powder charge. I'm going to go ahead and turn it toward you so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, again, just a once fired casing. Haven't done anything special with it yet. We're going to add our CFE pistol. I'm going to crank down on this a little ways because I'm not sure where I left off at, but we are after 4.1 grains. So we're going to go ahead and set the tilt scale to 4.1. Okay, so there's that. Go ahead and add our powder. Same as before. First cycle is going to be useless, so I'm going to cycle this a couple times. Okay, and let's see where we're at. See how close we got. Actually, that's pretty close, not too far off. As you can see, pretty close. About 2/10 of a grain short, probably. I'm just going to open this guy up about 1/5 of a turn. Remember the first, after every movement, the first stroke is useless. Bam. There it is. I'm going to go ahead and check that one more time because I had such an issue dialing that in. Probably because it's such a small charge. Yep, that's dead on. Okay, so I'm happy with the powder charge. Let's go ahead and get the die set up. Oh, whoops. Should get that back in. There we go. Cap on for safety reasons, obviously. Okay. Go ahead and put a handful of shells into our makeshift cap station here. And yes, I say shells. Just always said it that way. Okay, dies. So we're going to go ahead and take this out and set it aside in an upright position. In this case, I've got a second press sitting right behind you guys. So station 1, always going to be your decap and resize. So these dies I have not used yet. This will be my first time reloading 380s. As a matter of fact, I only know of the formula I'm using because a colleague of mine who's a professional reloader actually shared that formula with me. So these dies are straight out of the box. So the decap and resizer comes completely flush. So what we're going to do is thread it all the way out until I can see the head of the decapping tool or clamp poking past it, and then I'm going to countersink it backwards about 1/16 of an inch. Okay, just like that. Next, I'm going to cycle the press all the way to the upstroke. I'm going to take the clamp nut all the way to the top. Go ahead and cinch down on the set screw until I can feel just a little bit of resistance, almost. There we go. Okay, I'm going to thread this die in until I can feel it touch the shell plate. Just like that. Lift up on the handle, about a little less than a quarter turn, a little more, there we go. And if I did this correctly, I should be able to knock this die loose, put it in by hand, and feel the shell holder, and with about a pound of force, the bottom of the press, or the bottom of the stroke, I should say. Also, let's not forget to tighten up our set screw for the decapping tool. Make sure that's still countersunk, which it is. I'm happy with that. Okay, that die is set up. Let's go ahead and just make sure it's holding hand tight. Okay. Next die, swedger. Again, go ahead and start by tightening down the set screw of the jam nuts or the clamp nut until you can feel it, just enough resistance on the threads. Because I try to treat this like a standard nut, not so much with the clamping force. I find they stay set more successfully that way. This is going to go in stage 3. Stage 2 and stage 3, I kind of mismatch those back and forth from what people typically do. The reason I do that is because I prefer not to ruin my swedge job with the powder dispenser in the event that it gets a little bit hung up or a little bit too resistive or whatever. Maybe there's a lot of powder and it's heavy. Doesn't matter. I just don't want to ruin the swedge job I do, so I do the swedge afterwards. Also, with every swedge or expander die, by the way, with every load that I've ever put together, including 9mm, the powder and charge that I use, the combination that I use, is not enough to have ever contacted the swedging die, so just bear that in mind. Already got a tube full of Magnum small primers with my fiberglass follower, so I'm going to go ahead and resize one shell. So that works successfully. I'm going to go ahead and press a primer in, make sure that did its job correctly, which it did. skip the powder phase. Now with the tapered casings, like 9mm 380 auto, I typically will raise it all the way to the top of the stroke and clamp down on the swedging die, or the expander die, until I can feel the shell, and then I'll just give it about 3/8 of a turn, maybe a little more, and that's about all I'll do. I have demonstrations where I've done it under different methods, but that's because the die itself is fundamentally different. This is a one-piece die. So the reason I do it this way, because the tapered casings, they are super, super sensitive to the straightness of the wall for feeding into your gun, so I try not to alter that. So if I did enough to knock the burr off and just barely set the bullet in there to where I can push it and turn it upside down, I did a good job. That's all I'm ever going to look for with that one. So go ahead and put that in stage 1.5, have him all ready for us. So expander die, all set up. Open up another box of the handy dandy Hornady die bushings. Okay. Now, contrary to what I usually do, this will be a little bit of a treat for you guys. You'll get to see how I use a roll crimp, because I don't have a factory crimp die for this caliber, nor do I manufacture it very much. In fact, this is my first time manufacturing it. I only got the formula from a professional, like I said. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the roll crimp, because it's a small enough cartridge and it's tapered anyways. Tapered casings, I'm actually okay using the roll crimp. The roll crimp is the crimp feature that's inside of the bullet seater die. So what we'll do is we'll back the bullet seater all the way out, give it a couple of threads, back the clamp nut all the way to the top, get him just barely started, and then we're going to introduce our powder dispenser. Just like that. Already got one shell staged up. We already know we got our powder set. So we're going to give him some powder. Going to run him through the expander. I'm going to make sure I didn't put any powder on that. I did not, so we're in good shape. And then we're going to set a bullet on top of him nice and tightly. Raise him up into the die. And we're going to lower the body of this die. I'm bracing down on this handle, by the way, until I can feel it nip the lip of the casing. And that is a long-winded situation. Okay, there it is, biting the lip of the casing. What we're going to do, relieve the handle, give it 1/4 turn, and don't brace it very hard, just enough to hold the die still. I'm going to clamp our jam nut down, and without pressing down on the press rod or the handle, I'm going to use the screw on top to seat the bullet into the casing a little bit. Okay, which I have. Now I can press all the way down, which is going to simultaneously seat and crimp the round. We are looking for 0.97 inches. So where are we at? Okay, so by the way, the body of this die, after I've now inspected it and made sure it knocked the burr off, it's a nice soft rounded edge, okay? But it's not so tight that I can't press the bullet in any farther. So the body of this die is set. The roll crimp of this die is set. What's not set is the depth, or the seater. So 1.05 is where we're at. We are after 0.97, so let's see where we're at. I tighten that down just a titch. 104. .97. There we go. Okay. And I'm still satisfied with the roll crimps, so let's test this out with one complete cycle through a whole shell. Stage 1, decap resize, excellent. Stage 1.5, reprime, excellent. Stage 2, powder, all the way to the top, excellent. Stage 3, wedger or expander die, excellent. Stage 4, it's actually going to be our last stage. Seat and roll crimp. That is lovely. I'm happy with that. Okay, so now we can actually run some casings through this thing. Go ahead and prep up some casings with the old case lube. Okay. So one stage in operation. Whoops. Two stages in operation. 3 stages in operation. And we now have all 4 stages working. And there it is, a handful of 380. Well, we punched out a good 30 rounds. It's pretty awesome. I say this every time, so don't be too annoyed with me. I tumble them around inside of an old t-shirt like this because the texture of the fibers in the t-shirt I think are better at this than that of like a terry cloth or something like that. But my goal is to get all the old case lube residue off. Seems to attract dust and leave black spots and crap like that, so I try to get it off for the prudency of quality reloading. But anyway, today the roll crimp takes the cake, so there they are.